comfortable in your means to do it now in 2024.
Yeah,
because
probably.
you've got to face the facts that, look, if you're out, you do the remote, that's great. You just got to back yourself that, if this falls through, whatever it is you're running right now, if it falls through, you may have to go back into an office on location in order to get that job again. Which you've got to deal with that down step, which is hard, very hard. It's very hard to take any backward step. Anybody who's driven a car, downgrading to a low spec car. You're in a house, you downgrade to a flat or a flat share, very hard. Taking salary cut, very, very hard. So yeah, psychologically beyond most people. Anyway, we're live, everybody. Welcome. You're quite right, Michael. I'm interviewing for work because Brain Food is not paying the bills. I need to go get a recruitment job, bang out some calls, get back to old school. No, I'm only joking. Recruitment Brain Food doesn't pay the bills, but I don't think I'd be able to make any money being a recruiter these days either, especially not with my rusty skills. Anyway, welcome everybody. Brain Food live on air, bringing it to you every Friday. It's episode 272, and today we've got a very exciting show for you. And the reason why is because this is like been brewing for a year or so, at least a year, because we've had the mantra do more with less, I would say, for even 18 months or more, really from 2022 onwards. And recruiters, we've not been immune from this pressure to become more efficient. Well, the question is, okay, great. Why don't we review recruitment efficiency in 2024? Like, has anybody been more efficient? Has anybody done more with less? We've got some wonderful guests. I think they have. So we're going to be sharing some of their cases and see whether we can get some inspiration and some learnings from them. I'd love to hear what you think on this as well, folks. If you have, in fact, improved your process in some way over the last 12 months, do let us know. Now, if you're watching this on, actually, no, let's do some quick sound checks. Folks, if you're on sort of Crowdcast, can you hear me okay? Let me know. I've got some people who can definitely see me because they can see me in the jacket. Can you hear me okay? Let me know on this. We should be live on LinkedIn also. So I'm just checking my phone real quick to see whether I'm there. Am I live on LinkedIn? I think I am. So hello, LinkedIn. Anybody watching it here, let me know whether you can hear me on the chat. If so, I can hear myself, so I should be fine. Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. Everyone who's watching this on Crowdcast, can you just check onto the right-hand side of your screen, check out the poll, and let me know what your thoughts are on this. I want you to vote. Which area in the recruiting process have you achieved the greatest efficiency in 2024? We've got all kinds of different sort of levels of recruiting there: candidate acquisition, CV assessment, interview scheduling, hiring manager feedback collection, etc., etc. Please make a vote in there. I'll be interested to see what we've got on there. All right, cool. Let's roll on. Actually, we've got Adam here. Before we bring Sil on, actually, Adam, how are you doing? It was good to see you, by the way. Thank you for lunch. I'm not sure I thank you for that. But yeah, you have a good, fruitful journey into London.
Yeah, it was nice to see you as well. No, I did. I mean, it's all right. I'd rather live in London than just visit occasionally. It's so like draining traveling. It really is, and that's why I just don't really do it very much anymore. Jim actually asked if I was in Nashville. Absolutely not. The only way I'd ever be in Nashville would be if I'd moved there or I was there for like weeks or something like that. But anyway, I had a good trip to London, however, and I was just telling Hung that I met up with a friend of mine who's a partner in a Big Four accountancy firm, and he was saying everybody's getting back into the office, and I asked him if that was a good idea, and he thought that was great, and he absolutely said without question, it is miles better for productivity. And I thought that was really interesting because I'm not bothered, but different organizations have got completely different ways of doing things. So I just found that quite interesting.
Yeah, we might need to do a remote working thing at some point. But it's been done to death a little bit, so I'm not sure we've got space for it, but we'll see.
I think there's an update, isn't there? Because like the things are changing. Like London's getting busier. It's busier than it was a year ago.
It is, but it's still very resistant. It's the biggest city that has the biggest component of remote work, I think. So it's still there. Anyway, we're bringing on the man with the best hair in recruitment technology. It's
And the best product.
the best product as well. Folks, we always have to do this because basically Brain Food Live cannot exist without the support of our wonderful sponsors. Every week, a company steps up and says, this conversation needs to keep going. And this week is obviously one of our favorite sponsors, been fantastic for Brain Food over the years, and just one of the breakthrough products that have already broken through, help define the category of interview intelligence. And every week it seems to get amazing new innovations coming out of this this company. So I'm delighted to welcome on the screen Sal Majos, CEO of MetaView. Sal, great to see you, man. I hope everything's okay with you. I hope you're back in the swing of things in Q3. What's the latest and greatest with MetaView, mate?
Yeah, no, pumped to support, keep you suited and booted, hung. That's why we do what we do. So yeah, glad that that's working out. What's new? Loads of new things new with the product, and obviously really excited to be sponsoring these conversations because, well, we get a ton out of them, and yeah, very happy partner over here as well, hung. Lots to check out in the product. So if you haven't checked out MetaView in a while, do either head over to the website or get in touch with me or a member of the team. Special highlights at the moment. We recently launched auto highlight generation. So you can come to MetaView after your interview and the AI will already make predictions about what snippets, what parts of the conversation might be most useful for you to share with your colleagues who you're collaborating on this hire with. So that's pretty dynamite. And I think people will get a lot out of that. We've also recently introduced a bunch more flexibility to our reporting capabilities. So I think one of the things we've talked about in the past is how you go from the immediate value of the note taker, which just saves people a ton of time. Then you realize you've got this big corpus of data and you really get curious about what I can do with it. And we've just released a bunch of new reporting capabilities. So also worth checking out. I think that one is worth getting in touch with a member of the team, going to the website, maybe request a demo if you want to see more of that, because it's cool to talk through. The two things I wanted to talk about though, before letting you get on with the conversation, I think super relevant for this audience. One is I'll post a link in the chat in a second on Crowdcast. Maybe someone else can post it in LinkedIn on the MetaView team if possible. We're hosting an event next week on how deal hires. So you're going to hear from Alan a little bit on this session. We're doing a massive deep dive specifically into the intricacies of how Deal has hired, just because they've grown so incredibly fast, and we know there's going to be a ton of learnings there. So I'll post that link after I finish speaking. And then the other thing is we have surveyed hundreds of recruiters, some of them MetaView customers, many of them not, bucketed these people into AI-enabled recruiters, i.e. recruiters that are already using AI, and recruiters that are not already using AI. And we have a bunch of productivity data that we're going to be sharing probably in a couple of weeks' time, where we're just putting the finishing touches to the UI essentially of the reports. But if you maybe add me on LinkedIn if we're not already connected, and just comment, hey, I'd love to get a sneak preview of that, then we'll make sure you get a copy early on. A lot of it focuses around this topic, actually, around efficiency. As you can imagine, it's by far the primary reason people are adopting AI. We see that in the data we have. But yeah, you'll be able to see more if you drop me a note, and we'll make sure you get a sneak preview.
Can I just say something?
Go ahead.
I'm totally impartial here, but I have to say that the type of technology that MetaView is offering is an absolute game changer. That's all.
Thanks, Adam. And appreciate that.
Now you can see it is. I mean, it's not only this, but unsolicited feedback has been just crazy. Like every time we post something about it, there's people saying, look, it is game changing. And even at the basic use case is game changing. You know, the idea to get rid of notes, even if that is the only thing you do, that will itself give you huge amount. You get faster and you get better. I mean, that's basically two of the three things that you need to have done. So yeah, it's going to be mandatory, I think, over time. I think we're definitely getting there. Go ahead.
You can also be completely present with your candidate, right? You can also be completely, or your hiring manager. You can really listen properly instead of like trying to multitask. And you know, many of us are not great at multitasking. So
nothing more irritating than hearing typing going on when you're having a call, like a video call. But the only thing more irritating than this is if the other person's eating food. I mean, have you ever had a call where someone's actually eating their lunch?
I've been that person many times. I do it all the time.
You just gave me an idea, Hung. I wonder, you know how sometimes we put smell into gas, we put noise into electric cars so people can hear. Maybe we should put like noise into AI note takers, and you hear some click clacking in the background, just so you know this is happening. That could be a good idea, actually.
I think it'd be annoying though. It's like, are you even listening to me? But no, listen. MetaView amazing, and is the free Go still available? Like, can people just try it for free?
It's our way of business, really. For people that haven't, there's really two people who start to use MetaView. One is someone who's never considered recording these calls, in which case it's a bit of a big jump to start doing it. So we want you to try it for free first, see how you feel about it. And then the other might be someone who's using like Zoom's inbuilt note taking, and you're sort of thinking, well, how much better can Zoom can this really be? And so again, we want you to try it for free. I think it's just testament to, our approach is to let the product do most of the talking, which is why the free trial works for us. And, it's working.
MetaView.ai, folks. Get a go on it. If you haven't tried, if you're not a customer, just try it and see what you see. It's literally no cost to you, but I think it will change the game for you. Okay, Sal, listen, great to see you, man. Good luck on the event next week. We'll catch up soon, man.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. See you later.
Very cool. That market's it's starting to pop up now. Loads of different companies trying to grab it. I think the concept has been accepted. Actually, I didn't ask Sal on this call, actually, but I made a prediction early this year that market adoption for this type of technology will double from what it was last year. And I think I'm going to take whatever their sort of market sizing is, maybe the top 5 companies that are doing this. So I'll get an aggregate and then see where that is. But we're well on our way with that tech. Anyway, listen, we've got to get on with it. Did you read the newsletter? If so, Adam, what was interesting, mate?
Yeah, I did. And let's talk about, first of all, the evolution of software companies. I don't know who, actually, it was somebody on Reddit, I think, who said it. But it actually bothers me talking to people or like reading people saying things on the internet when they're like got numbnuts546 is their actual name. I think you're not real or whatever. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The article was interesting. So, obviously in the 2020s, AI is becoming a game changer. Technology still revolves around SaaS models. The core of money making is typically still about reading, writing, and manipulating data. I think what the article's saying is that the future is uncertain, but things like Internet of Things, further AI integration, things like quantum computing are all possibly in our near futures. But it also says that the challenge today is not actually making use of the technology better than the existing best of breed. It's about really standing out in a crowded, sophisticated market where the buyers just don't have the attention span. So brand is so vital. Brand and positioning and messaging is so vital. That actually goes along with your poll, which said 52%, I think it was, of survey respondents said that they're only in like 1 to 2 communities. But anyway, standing out is a really important thing. And also, incidentally, I saw something interesting from Sequoia Capital, the venture capital firm, a couple of days ago, which said that they don't really think the money is getting made in the models, the AI models. The money's going to get made in the utilization layer, the layer which is for the practical applications of it. So in terms of AI, that is specifically generative AI. So I don't know. It was really interesting just to give it a quick summary of like where are we today and what might be coming.
Yeah, definitely interesting little post. It was just a random Reddit post that I actually screen capped it and I shared it on X. But it was a really good sort of breakdown of the evolution of software, from, pre-web to cloud and now to AI. Like, how do software businesses actually evolve? Very interesting topic. And in fact, we should also talk about, the latest news out of Klarna earlier this week. I don't know if we saw this, but, the guy is talking about, we're going to get rid of Workday because, we can do it ourselves. And it's like, okay, very interesting. But yeah, it's worth diving into what the future of software is going to be. All right, give us one more, Adam, because we've got to get this show on the road.
Okay, one more. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. There's a guy called Hung Lee who writes some essays every week, and he wrote one about the fact that AI is going to kill the CV. The CV remains pervasive. It's like the cockroach of the recruiting world, right? there's an ongoing attempt to kill the CV because the CV's like, dying. We all know the limitations of the CV, right? We also all know that generative AI usage by job seekers is a real plague for a lot of recruiters right now. They're overwhelmed by the volume of applications they're getting. I think you compared it really to like a denial of service attack. Of course, recruiters are using it in the same way for like summarize this CV, that type of thing. But I think what your prediction is that recruitment's going to become like the platform's going to be more like a walled city where the behavior and the reputation of the individual is part of their record as well as their traditional sort of CV, kind of like career history. And a blockchain talent passport, for example, could become something which is, has a future. It seems logical, but the main thing about this is going to be like widespread adoption needs to happen.
I did put myself on the firing line because, the end of the CV has been predicted many times, but I'm going to predict it. Not to give a timeline, but I think I know how it's going to go. We're going to lose trust in it, basically. Literally, you cannot even tell. Human written, human generation, is it true? We absolutely have no clue. And we're going to get completely deluged by the volume of applications. I spoke to a company earlier this week. They had 4.7 million applications last year. They're a global, international business, multi-location. They anticipate getting 6.5 million applications by the end of this year. So that's something like a 20+% increase. Next year will be even more. It's going to be at the point where, okay, we can't actually process all of this. We'll get AI to read it, and we'll end up reading the generated summaries. And then, is that still a CV or not? I don't know. It'll be something different. Anyway,
when I saw you earlier in the week, I told you about the bank that I'd been to see that morning, and they had 6.5 million applications last year for 95,000 hires. So that's 6,405,000 rejections they were needing to do, and that was probably before people were just like spamming 500 applications in a day.
Totally unmanageable, totally crazy. And in fact, that is going to lead us nicely on to this conversation, because one of the challenges that we have in terms of recruitment efficiency is how the heck do we actually handle volume applications? Particularly if you advertise any job out there, you're going to get absolutely hammered. You're going to get 100+ applications within an hour, maybe 1,000 after a day. Like, you cannot humanly process this. And it's actually one of the efficiency topics we need to be talking about. Have anybody managed to solve this? So let's bring our guests on. We'll get on with it. We have Manjuri Sinha here. Great to see you,
Hello.
Manjuri. How are you?
Great to be back here.
Great stuff. We have Alan and we have Jane as well. Let's just do some intros real quick, everybody. So Manjuri, let's go with you first. Can you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Absolutely. If people don't know me as yet, I think that's a bit of a telling, but this is Manjuri Sinha, based in Berlin. I'm Vice President for Talent Success and DEI in OLX, which is a classifieds platform, and 20 years of experience. And I also wear the hat of a keynote speaker, a panel speaker, and I'll be at Unleash, so marketing myself a little bit as well, on 16th with a talk there. So yeah, I'm happy to be back on Hong's show.
Great. Go and see Manjuri's talk. She's a fabulous speaker, loads of learning all the time. We have Alan Price here as well. Alan, wonderful to see you. Can you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Hey, I'm Alan. I'm the global head of talent acquisition at Deal. It's interesting when we're talking about 95,000 hires and 6.5 million applications. We're on track to do about 2 million applications this year. For about 2,500 hires, right? So it's the ratios are a bit,
It's getting to the point where the numbers don't make sense, Alan. 2 million applications. Like I'm like, I just see a complete drowning. Anyway, we'll definitely dive into how you're tackling that. We also have Jane Curran here as well. Jane, thanks for getting up so early to have a chat with us. Jane, can you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Sure. Thanks, Hong. I appreciate coming back to your show as well. Jane Curran. I lead talent acquisition and HR operations at JLL. We're a commercial real estate firm. We hire about 30,000 people a year, have about 7,000 open jobs at any given time. And yes, getting this right from a volume perspective, as well as experience, is critical to our success. So excited to talk today.
Yeah, fantastic. Why don't we start with you, Jane? I mean, coming into all of us basically must have had that pressure coming into 2024. We've been hearing already, do more of less, operational efficiency. Every departmental head had that on their minds rolling into the year. How did you identify the item that you thought, okay, this is the quickest win for me to be able to say, I'm going to be able to make an measurable improvement? Jane, you go on this.
Sure. I think it's really interesting. So I'll never forget, I forget the woman who made the post on LinkedIn in like 22, when, remember, there were 300,000 open recruiter jobs, more than there were software engineers. And I feel like that was the peak. Like, I don't know if that will ever come back. But with that, we have been asked to do more with less since that time, and will continue to be. For me, this journey really started probably in 2018 when we chose our human capital vendor, like Workday. Once we set that up globally, then it was just like, how are we going to keep tucking in new solutions to speed everything up? But it takes a long time. We are probably most excited about the things we started to do right now, because they're all coming to fruition. The tech is getting better. The integrations are getting faster. The recruiters are getting more interested. So for us, it was, we're scheduling is coming this year, but probably the sourcing component, making the database we have of millions of applicants work in our favor, and then accelerating internals and referrals. So I can get into the example if you'd like, but that was where we focused on.
That's attracting into the millions of applications. Obviously, we very quickly accumulate a huge amount of data. The problem is, and Adam, you're familiar with this, like, you can't do anything with it. It's like it's just sitting there. It's causing like a storage issue. Can't search it. If I can search it, it's all over the place. How do I make this alive? Tell us what your approach was for this, Jane.
Sure. So we have some great technology working behind the scenes, so that when somebody applies, and when I say, like, we have all these open jobs, one person gets each job. So say at 100 applicants, 99 were no's, but that's not a no forever. So they're in our database, and we have a scoring mechanism that looks at their skills and looks at the resume and then puts them in, categories. So now it's like a fetch, an auto fetch. So they didn't get that job, but then we very quickly, the next time something opens that they're a match for, we just go back out to them and say, hey, David, you recently applied to our organization. A new job has come up that's a fit for you. So we've turned that on, and in very short amount of time seen a lot of success. So we just kind of consider that like our AI sourcing while you sleep, just making those connections much, much faster. And we've seen that the recruiter had the ability to go source our previous applicants, and they were doing a great job, but AI can do it bigger and faster. So there's better results. So I think that's what we've seen, is that we've got an amazing team. We've got a big team, but they're going to be able to continue to do more work as this automation comes in to do some of the stuff that, like, I don't want them spending their time doing anyway. I want the short list as fast as possible, so that you can get to the manager and you can get the right candidate through the process as quickly as you can. So that was our focus, and we're seeing success.
Yeah, and basically, what a much better experience from a candidate point of view, isn't it? Like, the worst thing that can happen is just a flat no, like a literally no other further solution. But if you can say, hey, listen, we have this system, potentially future opportunity might come your way, and actually that does happen, then I think your general vibe towards the employer is going to be much better. I think that's going to be a classic use case going forward. Again, one of those things that it will be a table is interesting now, table stakes in a year or two's time, because we'd expect no less than this.
Right.
Alan, shifting over to you if I can, with sort of your challenges this year, coming into this year, 2024, how did you kind of identify the place where you thought we've got to actually tackle this problem and get better at it, and what actually happened?
Yeah, there's a couple of problems. I think number one was front loading of roles at the start of the year, right? So we needed to move fast, and it was tied to revenue and all of these things. So that was a big problem. And number two was the sheer volume of applications, right? So we were doing anywhere like 30, 35, 40,000 applications on a weekly basis, right? And having to shift through all of that super fast meant our candidate experience kind of dipped because we weren't able to get to them. And, at some points of the year, we had like 50, 60,000 kind of applications kind of unread, right? And that's only a couple of weeks work, but that's a big problem for us, especially when we've got a big demand to grow quite quickly, right? And deliver speed of hire, right? So those are the two kind of problems that we started to tackle. How we thought about it was, well, hey, like we need some help in terms of AI to have a look at CV review, et cetera, stack ranking of applications. What we also saw is like we do like big cohort hiring, for instance. So we would hire 50, 60 kind of customer service people, for instance, and the requirement would come in 3 weeks later, we need them. So it's just a case of like massive bulk hiring, and consider that, a lot of the team geographically distributed kind of around the world, but you'd have like different hubs of kind of customer service. So in the Philippines, for instance, or other areas. And you're like, well, hey, how do new people, like new into the organization, like how the hell do we do this? So then being able to drive using AI in the interviewing kind of process, filtering out. So we'd use AI to stack rank the CVs and applications. We'd get a cohort of people that we wanted to interview. But again, we didn't want to do 4 or 5 interviews to one hire because, for 50, that's going to be like 250, 300 kind of interviews, right? So a big investment in time. So we were trying to get it to a 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 kind of ratio of interviewing to have less interviewing time for that, right? So we used AI to do that first screen, right? We'd list and load up some questions. They would then be able to answer those questions in a pretty seamless way. And then we'd be able to take that evaluation. It would take us about 5 minutes per application to review that. And then we'd go through the interviewing kind of process and kind of block book all of it. So we're able to do that kind of time to hire in about 10, 12 days. So it's pretty good.
Okay, without plugging any products, I mean, I have no idea which AI you're using, but I'm sure people watching this will think, okay, what do you mean AI? I'll like, is this like coming out of, is it from an ATS? Is it a bespoke tool? Like, how did you know, what was the thing that helped you do the CV assessment, for instance?
Yeah, so we're on no name policy, but I'm sure you can look up who we're on, right? But we're this ATS provider has just released a new CV stack ranking kind of AI CV review. So it's probably very clear who we're on. But previously they didn't, right? So we had to use a third-party provider to trial and test. So that was quite interesting. It had 2 components. One was inbound, right? Bots to be able to review and also course correct and move people from one job funnel to say, hey, I'm a back-end engineer by trade, but I applied for a full stack kind of role. And it's like being able to kind of pivot those automatically into the new funnel. So that was a tool that we piloted. And then it also had outbound capabilities as well to be able to look at the market and to find similar type profiles and then be able to, source as you sleep. I think Jay mentioned that kind of a little bit earlier. So that was, again, very interesting for us. And then there's another platform. I don't know if I'm allowed to say names or not, but we use a third-party provider.
So feel free.
There's a company called Micro One. There's a company called Micro One, so MICRO, and then number 1. So Micro One we're using on the big cohort hiring, and it's fantastic. It's an absolute game changer. Candidate experience is on average using this platform about plus 80 MPS. All of the candidates that come into our funnel. So it's like just game changing in terms of candidate experience.
What does it do, Alan? This Micro One thing?
So you would then be able to log into a platform. You would then preload some questions. You can either take as templates or you can kind of customize your own kind of questions. What would then happen is you would then record a response to those questions, so you can test the English skills, etc., communication skills, and it also has kind of detection AI in there as well. So if you're trying to cheat and like use multiple tabs and like type on like ChatGPT to kind of figure out the answer, then it also has a trust score as well linked to that. so you're not able to cheat. Because previously, what we'd also use is at the start of the year we were using a take-home test, right, to test English skills and test kind of some of those other core skills, and we saw that it was like an 85%. And there was no AI on it, and we saw that the take-home test had an 85% rate of candidates using AI to actually complete the exercise. So we were like, well, hey, like this is insane. Like, and then so at first we were like, well, hey, like let's just reject everyone. But then we were like, well, actually, we're not going to hire anyone from this cohort, right? And we need to deliver. And then what are we going to do? We're going to use AI to then respond back to our customers? No. So we have to then kind of re-engineer our entire process around it.
Yeah, I think that the asynchronous take-home test in any sort of format is gone, hasn't it, folks? I mean, there's no way you can trust what's coming back. So what is the point in asking people to do that? It has to be happening ideally in real time. And of course, you're going to be using technology. We have to design software that sort of is compatible for that. And thankfully, it's another part of the booming area. So implementation of tech seems to be a big part of this, Alan. Really interesting. Thank you very much for that example. Switching to you, Manjuri, I know your position's kind of shifted a little bit now. You're kind of doing TM as well, holistic people type of work. Tell us a little bit about sort of where efficiency has occurred in OLX this year. What was the example, and how do you think, how can you talk us through that example, should I say?
Absolutely, Hong. I think beginning of this year, for a fiscal year for us, it was we had a big challenge to face and deliver bulk of hiring in a couple of our countries, and we were of course needing to do more with less, because there was always pressure on the staff cost, which is the chunk of what kind of comprises with the top line, as well as we need to push on our profit margins, etc. So looking at that, we really took our North Star as our productivity on one side, which was the recruiter productivity. How do we push that up? And if you know a little bit of me, and you know me well, Hong, there, human-centric is where I go for. So I think the first thing that we did is alignment with our stakeholders. Alignment with our leaders on what we can deliver and where we need our partnership. We have very well laid out, and this is where the synchronization between talent management and talent acquisition really helps me. We have very well laid out career paths with skills and competencies. So we wanted to really ensure that we have a very well laid out hiring process as well. I think that's key, number one, because a lot of go, no-go decisions are what delays the process as such. So we decided we will go for pack agnostic hiring on certain areas for engineering, as well as for products. So that makes things faster. Also, we decided we would have one person in the debriefing session to be a decision maker, go, no go, etc. as well at the end, who will take the final call and not keep that hanging. So we've seen that decision point being, very, very critical. And we kept a weekly alignment on this particular project to ensure that we can be super fast. So doing that, we did realize that we could increase our productivity. So that was the human side of things. The structure side of things was, of course, going to a very model of 60-40. I usually carry a 70-30 of in-house recruitment and support from our external partners, RPOs, etc. But here I increased it also in the interest of giving more agility to the whole delivery. And the third is where we talk about technology and AI. And OLX has been using AI in recruitment since 2020. GoodTime was our tool that we used for scheduling, and we introduced GoodTime also to the commercial hiring bucket, where we could see advantages from automated scheduling and this happening super fast. In the month of March, we also did our trials with Seal and team and another product, but we finally ended up with MetaView. So the note taker has also given us a lot of speed on that. And we've actually cut our time to hire by 30% of what we had. Our productivity for recruiters have actually gone up by 70% on both the sides, on tech as well as on the non-tech side. And we've seen the average time spent on stage, which was a challenge earlier for us to move candidates from one stage to the other. And this was the decision part as well. And that has been reduced by about 70%. So overall, this is something that we've seen an amazing gain on. And now we can use this data to push back and probably ask for a little bit more resources when we want to bring in more AI into the process as well. And it's a very good use case to use to go to our CFO and say, hey, we did this, now give us more money to buy some more stuff.
Yeah, fantastic. And by the way, folks, part of the reason why I wanted to do this show is so that you can get some testimony in case you needed to get some budget or you needed to make a change internally. These are examples from some leading people in our industry that have demonstrated these types of gains. Manjuri, I love the way you broke it down in terms of how efficiency can be kind of delivered. There's a human efficiency, of course. There's a procedural sort of method that can accelerate your way forward. It's not just about chucking technology, ways in which things seem to be sticking, and can you speed that up? And I want to sit on the middle thing you talked about, which is the organizational structure. So this balance between having fixed sort of headcount in the TA team and then having some flexi scale up, scale down labor on this. And I want to open it up to everyone here, actually. How much does that go into your thinking? The agility of the resources that you have, is this been in your mind also? We also need to bring in the idea of offshoring some of the recruitment functionality. We know, for instance, you can get high quality labor at better cost in different locations in the world. These could be places where we can anticipate migration of some functions of recruiting, for instance. Has that been part of your thinking in 2024? Is it going to be part of your thinking in 2025? I'll throw this open to everyone to have a chew at. What are your thoughts?
I'll go first.
I think that's one of the reasons why. Oh, sorry.
No, Alan, go.
I think that's one of the reasons why Deal exists. Right, we see that as a market, right? So why pay a San Francisco engineer when you can go and get someone equally qualified in Brazil, right? And there's like amazing kind of talent hubs across the region, and that's why I think there's such fast pace in my industry of folks saying, hey, well, where is the talent? Where's access to talent? And instead of and if you have a remote culture, for instance, or even like a multi-site kind of cross-border talent strategy, then it's very helpful to be able to hire anyone wherever they are versus having to worry about relocation costs or entity creation, entity setup, the legal legislation and frameworks around it, and the complexity that go with managing and distributing and paying a global workforce. So we see that not only in the talent acquisition space, but also with our clients.
Sorry for putting you on the spot here because you might not have this, but do you have any data, probably any deal data around like the growth or otherwise of talent acquisition type jobs on the platform? Or if not, can somebody in your team go and get that and put it in the chat?
Yeah, okay. Let me see if I can grab that for you.
I would actually, you anticipate my question, Adam. That's exactly what I was about to ask Alan. Like, what is the demand for companies that may be thinking about, actually, we need to geographically disperse our TA team, let's say, particularly for certain functions. I know certain big organizations have done that. But you can, there's implications pro and con, by the way, for us in recruiting. We need to think about all of this. But from an operational efficiency point of view, we can't deny that the pressure to distribute resources to where we can get the value resources most sort of effectively, that's going to be in place. Okay, go to you, Jane, on this. You were about to say something about the balance between sort of internal headcount and using RPO, third-party suppliers. What's your thought process? What has been your thought process in 2024, and what is it going to be in 2025?
I think everything's on the table. I think that you can't rule anything out. I think you have to really focus on where is the need for high touch, where are the countries in which you are established and maybe generate more, revenue for you, where are places that we need to be and we need to be good, but deliver it at a lower cost. So I think everything's on the table. We certainly have looked at Costa Rica, for an example, to support the US. EMEA isn't growing as much, and we have a very stable team there, but the growth is in APAC, Asia. So, those are low-cost markets to begin with. So we will continue to make sure that our process excellence is what we're trying to drive for, because I keep saying we want to grow as a company. We will continue to grow as a company, but the old way of growing in any function, not just HR, was people. You need more people. And that's just a dated model. So we're really trying to figure out how can we grow with process excellence as our definition, because if you don't have good process and then you slap tech on it, it's just an expensive, bad process, right? With more people. So it's hard to get people to change, Hung, to say, like, slow down, get the process defined, add the tech at the right points, and then we will grow the recruiting team. But how and where is what I'm trying to sort. Where do you need that in-person, like in-office touch? Where's that experience critical? The business expects it. And where can I get by doing great work and it could be done anywhere? So those are the things that I'm kind of looking at. But I think all of the options are on the table. We've dabbled in a few, and I think we'll continue to sort out how to keep up with business growth with a very balanced and affordable TA function and model, which will always be tech enabled, and we will continue to look at more tech options. But process is king for me. And people are overwhelmed and I need this, I need that. I'm like, what we said before, where are your bottlenecks? Is it in the review of resumes? Is it in the trying to get interview feedback? Like those parts of the process that are really human defined that just sit. That's where I want to focus on process before we just start offshoring work or moving work. It's like, but what if my process stinks? I'm just moving bad process. So it's important. And recruiters don't love process. I get it. We're salespeople, right? We want to go out there, we want to hunt, we want to get the deal done. I'm like, I know, but we could do it faster if we got a little bit more into process.
Yeah, and we're going to end. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, just one point. I mean, I agree with all what Jane said. One point on the offshoring for hiring. I think tech can go first because we usually have English as the main language. One of the game-changing things we need for commercial area or non-tech hiring is language. And there's a product that Salesforce has introduced for customer support and sales called Einstein, where you can look at real-time language translation on the phone, and it translates it. It can also write up notes, etc. for you. That is some product that we need for recruitment as well. And then I can really foresee having a team in India or Brazil who can hire for maybe Germany, for Poland. Today, that is one of the main problems that I see in even on the jobs that are coming up in Germany. Sometimes even for tech recruiters, it says German needed. Really, you don't need German for a German tech recruiter because you're hiring internationally. But that's, I think, one of the bigger borders to cross if we want to look at offshoring for recruiting teams.
We're close with this.
Totally
We're
agree.
very close. I heard, I saw a podcast, I forget what it was, but it was really interesting about accent bias. And you now have real-time software that can eliminate accent bias by actually you can configure the sort of accent you want people to speak on. And this was particularly looking at the BPO marketplace, where for US customers, basically Philippines had taken a lot of the BPO market from India because it turned out that US customers preferred speaking to people with a Filipino accent compared to, let's say, a classic Indian accent. And now it's like saying, okay, great. Actually, the Indian people can now actually configure their accents to whatever you want. And it's like, oh, man, we're in a different world now. Like we could potentially, all of this is in the air. So, yeah, very, very interesting, exciting, also discomforting as well. It's going to help at all. I don't know. Probably would have made more money speaking elsewhere. Okay, folks, we're going to keep going, but we have to take a quick mini break here because we always need to do this in the middle of every show. Reason why is because Brain Food Live has to come off air. It's a tragedy, I know, but we do need to be off air in about 20 minutes or so. It is a terrible thing if this is that we stop having a conversation about this topic. Because we have to come off air. So make sure you continue to have this conversation off air with whoever it is that's interested in it. The way to figure this out is to connect with everyone who's watching this show. So take a moment, grab your LinkedIn URL, share it in the chat stream in Crowdcast, and then connect with everyone who's done the same. If you're watching this on any of the LinkedIns, whether you're watching on Rob Walker's sort of LinkedIn, mine, Adam's, whoever it is, just do the same thing. Grab your LinkedIn URL, share it in the comment thread, just connect with everyone who's done the same. You'll walk away with 10, 20, 30 connections that care about this topic of recruitment efficiency. They're people you want to speak to for inspiration and knowledge share, folks. Okay, let's forward focus 2025, knowing what you've done now, you three, and thinking, you know what, yeah, it's been pretty good. You know, we've had some good progress. What is the KPI you're looking to shift significantly for 2025? You haven't done, you know, no one's operating a perfectly efficient recruiting system. What is the problem? What is the target you're thinking, you know what, that's going to chime right with our business need, but also, you know, maybe dovetailing with technology innovation that's going to mature right for this moment. We're going to do this. Any thoughts on this? I'll go with you first, Alan. What are your thoughts? What's the in your sort of target for 2025?
Really defining I think the term like quality of hire and all these things is going to be banded around. I find it personally very challenging to get the right metrics in place there. For us, what I think we're looking at more is like talent to value, right? So assigning different values. So let's say that our organization wants to grow $1 billion in revenue, for instance. How do you then attribute that billion in revenue as a business goal into the different teams? So do you then attribute that to the sales team? Or is it more engineering, right? If you look at like the Google way of working, right? If you're the rock star, if you're an engineer, right? You're not necessarily, you know, so, and then you attribute a lot of value in terms of compensation, etc., to engineers who are working on AI and all of these things and attribute that value. So I think that that's really interesting for us as we start to say, well, hey, like we want to grow $1 billion in revenue or whatever the number is. How do we then kind of cascade that around the organization? And then for the people team, we start to then look at, okay, well, what skills are we then needing for our leadership area, our managers, are like future skill proofing, right? So if we want to be there in 3 years' time, what are the skills that we need in order to then get there? And then that comes into compensation frameworks and etc. That then drives into the TA space, like, hey, well, these are the skills. How do you evaluate the skills? So for us, we look at, you know, functional skills and functional practices, right? You've then got behaviors, achievements, and motivations. And then how do we then look at all of our data around, for instance, we did an exercise, a data insights exercise with our sales development representatives, for instance, because we saw all of our managers saying, I want more experience, I want more experience. And our interviewing protocols were around experience-led. Have you hit target? Have you hit quota? You know, all of these things. And for us, when you looked at the category, that the more experience you had, the worse performing you had. Right, it was actually more about behaviors, because that's a kind of, you know, that SDR role is like a progressive step role. And what we saw was that, you know, the people with the more experience were coming in, they'd do 3 months of ramp, then it would mean that they would do 6 to 9 months of kind of, you know, commercial based activity. They'll move into an AE role, another 3 months of ramp. So over a 12, 15-month period, you've got 6 months of ramp. So when you attribute that back to ROI, right at the very start, you're not that great, right? In versus being able to have progressive hires who is more about behaviors. You align our interviewing protocols against those behaviors, etc., and then you're able to prove more positive ROI based on these areas, whilst also doing that skill-based matrix across the organization of not just, you know, having managers who kind of were in a role and then automatically like stumble across and automatically they've got a massive responsibility. And maybe they don't have the enablement or skills in order to get there. And then if you miss those targets, you're then figuring out a year later, oh, we didn't quite hit because of this. And then you're having to kind of terminate someone and then move someone over. But the opportunity cost for that year is fundamentally kind of huge, right? And then playing into that is like our partnership with like MetaView as well, right? Because for us, yeah, note taking is great and it's interesting and efficiency and all of these things. But what are the skills that we're looking for? How does that correlate through not only the interviewing process, but the first 3 months, 6 months, etc., to say, what did we think that person would be able to do versus the reality in the first months? Right. And then you can then start to say, okay, and then you can say, did it work? Didn't it work? You can correlate that gap analysis between what we thought that person could do versus reality. And then we refactor our interviewing protocols a lot earlier. So you're not having to wait 12 months plus before you start to get quality of hire metrics kind of coming through. So I think for us, that's probably where we're going. And it's really helpful to then understand our interviewing protocols. What are we actually looking for? And then provide that training and enablement and data insights, reporting, all of those components, and is really helpful to unlock the black box of the interview. Because as a recruiter, you know, going on to an on-site interview or whatever, you have no bloody clue what's actually being discussed, apart from kind of, in some cases, kind of, inconsistent feedbacks, right? So I think that for us is game changing, right? It's that talent to value approach versus quality of hire approach.
No, really interesting, and I think also the again, that sort of being able to have the recording of those interviews and then looping that information back into performance measures. That's basically what holistic people function looks like, isn't it? Whereas previously we didn't even collect the data, and actually there were two separate things anyway, so it was useless. Very interesting. Okay, Jane, let's go to you. 2025. What are your thoughts? Like, what is there a target? Like one thing you think, what, we're going to solve this? Jane, you're on mute, I'm afraid.
To me, it's the evolution of the recruiter. I want to continue to develop recruiters of the future. I want myself and our team to be in control of our destiny, because there is so much AI coming at us. Our job, our industry, our profession is certainly ripe for change. So to me, it's continuing to help the recruiter understand how to change the ways of working. One of the things we had talked about was just like any roadblocks we've had. And, some recruiters are all in. Nobody loves change, but they do have to change a little bit their way of working to adopt some of these cool new AI features. So for me, it's really continuing to promote internals and referrals. So we have something called Fast Lane that we're trying to introduce, where we have automated status progression for, because we have matching and ranking technology in the background of everything. So to me, it's really getting internals and referrals, which are your fastest, quickest, most accurate hires, to the top of the list. And there's been some, rejection from the recruiters to be like, no, I need to review every resume. If I don't review every resume, I don't want them on my schedule. And it's a change, but I'm trying to say, hey, let some of this just flow. Let some of these top applicants flow into your schedule to speed up the whole process. So that's just an example, but we really want to continue to accelerate and leverage all the great technology to make sure that recruiter is spending their most valuable time speaking to candidates, selling, closing. That to me is a future of recruitment, is that your job is spent doing those things. So that's it. I just want to keep developing our recruiters to be ready for change.
Loads more to talk about, Jane. Let me put you on the spot on this. That final thing is really interesting. Like, what is the distribution of time that you want the future recruiter to be spending on? Like I'm not saying sourcing's dead. Sourcing is not dead.
Nope.
We still need people. I think even with the overwhelming deluge of job applicants, for instance, I think sourcing may be one way to fix that. You don't necessarily lead with advertising so much. You can be a bit more targeted for those roles. So I'm not saying sourcing's dead. However, we can anticipate that a great deal of what we previously understood as sourcing will be done by machines, because they can do it faster. They can do a mass review of candidates faster. They can, let's say, do the catch-up email, or the reactivate databases, all that type of stuff. What is the distribution of time, Jane, that you think a recruiter in 2025 should be going towards in terms of, speaking to people one-to-one? Is that 70%? Is that 50%? What is it?
I would like to say somewhere in between 50 and 75% of their time should be talking to candidates or hiring managers. If you can get to a hiring manager and show them the depth of your expertise, that the market, the talent pool, the city, all of those things, then they're going to be like, oh, I can't wait to hear from this recruiter again. They know. So to me, it's equal. You got to get the hiring manager hooked into your service, and then the rest of the time you should be spending talking to candidates. And what we talked about a lot today is applicant-rich environments. We have many non-applicant rich environments where we desperately need sourcers out there, hosting events, getting the pool, drawing in the pool, nurturing the pool. So I agree that all of this AI works when you have applicants and you're just trying to find the best of the best. You got many jobs out there where you just need to find qualified applicants.
Yeah, and actually limited. Go ahead, Adam.
I was just going to say it's worthwhile for anybody that's not seen it taking a look at the Talent Labs Time and Motion study, because that'll show you what recruiters are typically spending their time on today. There was 2 hours and 43 minutes every day is typically spent on locating, managing, and building the assets that they need to do their job, like Boolean strings, interview questions, outreach messaging, social media posts, all of that. And we haven't really covered that at all in this. In this session, we've talked mostly about like candidate profiles and managing candidate profiles and ranking those and finding them and that type of thing. there's a heck of a lot of stuff that, I mean, the recruiter job today is probably got the most different skills that are required of any job I can think of. And so, yeah, it's worthwhile taking a look at that. Thanks. I think Hans just shared that on there.
Yeah, I criticized the formatting of that report, by the way, but it's got some good information on it. Definitely check it out. Okay, Manjuri, give us your target for 2025. Is there one thing that you think, you know what, we can really optimize and get faster on?
I think the faster topics Alan and Jane have kind of shared. I would say my target for 2025 is to prepare the organization for the Promethean event that we are looking at. Josh Person recently talked about AI agents coming into play. David Green has given us the workforce construct of the future, where you understand what skills are needed in-house, what can be fractional, what are the benefits and motivations for these 2 or 3 sets of employees that you'll have, and how do you hire, onboard, retain AI agents going forward. It sounds a little bit in the fluff today, but I think this will be a challenge that we'll be faced with definitely by the end of 2025. And that's what I want to work on for the next year.
Yeah, really interesting, folks. Agentic AI. So I think 2023 was probably AI as sort of tools, so we could pick up the tool and use it. 2024 seems to be AI assistants, so they're actually doing a lot of the stuff, more than just a tool. We have to interact with them. And what is 2025? AI agents, literally colleagues. Are they de facto colleagues in team? And if so, what does that mean with regards to management, like leadership? Do we include agentic AI into our workforce development? Let's not forget, the entire idea behind these AIs is that they will evolve over time and get better or worse. I mean, depending on their experience. So in fact, they do need to be developed. They can go wrong. So I wonder whether in future, human management will actually involve managing non-human workers. What about that as a thought, folks? Okay, listen, we're going to finish off there. I want to have a final question for the 3 wonderful experts here, because I think we've talked so far at the meso level with regards to organizational efficiency and organizational this, that, and the other. Let's go to the micro level, individual things that you need to be doing as a recruitment professional. How do we get into a position where we are future fit for this AI-enabled, AI-dominant future? What are you personally doing to ensure that's the case for you? And what's your advice to other people, irrespective of the level of seniority on this? Let's go to you, Jane. What are your thoughts? What's an individual recruiter, recruitment leader, should they be doing to prepare for this future?
Definitely subscribing to your newsletter and listening to your podcast every Friday. I mean, I started religiously doing this. No, I did. I started doing this probably 2 or 3 years ago, and I just have never stopped. And I've stayed, met a ton of people. And I don't know, I just find it, I'm thankful that you are here doing this for our industry, because it cuts the chase to just like, what are we reading there? So for me, it's just staying connected, staying networked, and don't be afraid. Like this AI and all agentic, all it's coming our way. Embrace it. And be part of the solution. If someone's talking about it at your company, go figure out who that group is and get yourself into it, to be part of the solution and not don't resist. I would say join the movement versus being a resistor. Alan,
lean into the movement, folks, because you got no choice. Otherwise, you're going to be lent on. Your choices are pretty evident. Alan, what's your view? Individual advice for individual recruiter? What would you have them do to prepare for this future?
Well, we've all said that the market is fundamentally changing and will continue to do so this year, next year, and the following year. So there's a ton of change. And I think previously there's always been are you a recruiter, right? For me, a recruiter versus a talent acquisition specialist, they're fundamentally different. One has a view on, hey, here's the vacancies. How do I kind of hire people kind of heads down, go, go, go? And I think that with all of this change, you have to be able to navigate through a lot of change, right? Where are the benefits? Be consultative. Where are the optimization options, etc.? And for me, I always tell the team, if I'm the one coming into the room to make a decision, then it's probably going to be the wrong one because I'm not seeing it at the coalface. right? So I think like the TA team have far better insights, far better knowledge, etc. of like the micro level kind of things that need to be optimized and changed. So be consultative, be a talent acquisition specialist, and not a recruiter.
Yeah, very good, Alan. A final word to you, Manjuri. What's your advice?
Be curious, be ready to experiment, and focus on your personal brand, because that is personal, authentic brand. That is something that no AI bot or agent can take away from you.
I've got a new phrase for everyone. You have to be conspicuously human in the AI dominated world, folks, because we're gonna start doubting the information coming at us, whether it's human or not, and we're gonna lean in and trust individuals that are obviously human in comparison. So have a think about that and what it means with regards to how you present and how you communicate. Okay, we're going to leave it there, folks. Wonderful to see everyone. Thank you to our guests, Manjuri, Sinha, Alan Price, Jane Curran. Follow these folks. I've shared their LinkedIn in the chat. Make sure you connect with these thought leaders. We'll say goodbye to them now. Have a good weekend, Manjuri. Have a good weekend, Alan. Have a great weekend, Jane. And thank you all for watching, everybody. Great to have you on the show, as ever. I hope you learned something. We're going to be back next week, as we always are. We're going to be talking about the compliance side of AI, because we are going to be talking about the EU AI Act. And in fact, what does that mean for recruiters and recruitment technology makers? If you're a maker or a producer or a user of these tools, what does it actually mean? How do we actually stay compliant? How do we ensure that the products we make and the tools that we use are actually human-centered rather than AI-centered? So make sure the show's up and running, so make sure you sign up for that. We've already got 250 people registered on that, so make sure you sign up. Follow the channel if you're interested in this type of dialogue. We do it every week. And yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.